Hey guys, these are the review questions from Erico. So, first one, well, what's the main function? Energy production. Specifically, we can talk about that Randall cycle, to where depending on if we're at lower intensities, we're going to be able to utilize fatty acids through beta oxidation as the major fuel source. But once we get up to higher intensities, that's when we're going to switch over to aerobically breaking down glucose. So the main function, producing NADH, FADH2, and then that little bit of GTP, which is then converted into ATP. So from there, that NADH and that FADH2 feeds into the electron transport chain, and that's where you're going to get a huge amount of ATP being synthesized. When is carb loading effective? Now, our goal with carbohydrate loading is so that we're going to be able to increase the energetic reserves, specifically of glycogen, in an athlete. Now, when we want to carb load is when we think that they're going to be doing an activity that is going to run the risks of depleting their glycogen levels. So, we figure your average person, as long as they're eating appropriately, probably has naturally the glycogen stores that's going to last them for at least 90 minutes. Now, 90 minutes, if we're talking about running a half marathon and you're running it, you're in good condition, you're going to have enough reserves built up there that you're going to be fine. But when we talk about things like a marathon, we're talking about good athletes still take 3 hours to do it, or less than 3 hours. Your best in the world, we're talking about a little bit over 2 hours. So for those folks, carbohydrate loading is going to be far more important. So think of it in two ways: exercise duration, and then the total caloric needs for that duration. So we can go golf all day, and are we going to have an issue with hitting the wall because of a lack of glycogen? Probably not. Even if we're walking around with our clubs, if we're in good condition, the vast majority of the day, all we're doing is burning fat and, well, playing golf. So if you're into that thing, that's cool. Whereas if instead you're going to go play, say, a soccer tournament, where you're going to go play maybe 3 full 90-minute matches, and we've got a midfielder that's going to be out there sprinting up and down the field the vast majority of the day. Now, if that person, even with a good breakfast, good lunch, and some snacks in between, still might have an issue by the final game or the games on the subsequent days hitting the wall. So that's where that carbohydrate loading is going to be more important. And really, when we talk about loading, we're just talking about making sure that a larger amount of our calories are coming from carbohydrates. And that's something that can easily be done by simply making better nutritional decisions in the days leading up to the meet. Does weight play a role in the way our body reacts in hot or cold environments? Yes and yes. So, specifically when we look at the difference between adults and children, children typically have, due to their body size, less surface area, but more body volume. And this is the same thing we find with really fat people. So the issue is, when you're in hot environments, the more surface area you have relative to your body size, the easier it is for you to drop down your body temperature. However, that also means it's easier for you to have issues with hypothermia because, once again, you've got thinner limbs with a greater surface area that now this heat can be leached off into the environment. So weight does play a significant factor. Larger people, specifically we're talking about obesity and otherwise, they're going to have a greater issue with thermoregulation in hot environments, just like very skinny people are going to have issues with maintaining their body temperature in cold environments. Now, these are just degrees, and this is more or less based upon if we take these hypothetical examples. Now, is everyone going to work perfectly within these? No. At the end of the day, you need to still follow the athlete's individual responses to the heat. Some people are better at thermoregulation than others. Training is going to give us an advantage. It's going to change the way that we sweat, in that we're going to sweat earlier, we're going to sweat more, and we're going to sweat less diluted, meaning that we're going to do a better job of not losing our electrolytes, which is then possibly going to set ourselves up for cramping. So, thanks for your question. Have a great one, guys, and good luck again on the exam.